You know that horrific feeling when you have a cold and like half your nose is blocked and you can't really breathe through your nose? It sucks. Well, that's what the NC Miata feels like, more or less, with its stock airflow situation. Or it's kind of like maybe a scarf wrapped around your neck while you're trying to run a marathon. Honestly, I'm running out of metaphors, but you get the picture. What I'm trying to say is there's a restriction with the factory airflow system. For some reason, the factory header has pinched pipes, and word on the street is that replacing it with a new one helps dramatically. So I'm not about to sit around with this old one and have my driving compromised. Haven't you been living with the factory one for like years? I know, but I'm finally doing something about it. It is time.
It is time.
Wait. We gotta unbox this thing properly. Aha! Extension for the O2 bung. Header bolts, that's a good sign. And here we are. It's beautiful. So here it is in all of its glory. This is magnificent piece of metal. Beautiful welds. You can see the O2 bung kind of sitting there where that'll go. No pinched pipes. So this should breathe a lot better. By the way, Ghost Energy, this is an obvious sponsorship opportunity right here. Obvious. So, gonna back the car into the garage, get it up in the air. Wish I had a lift, and we're gonna install this thing, no matter what it takes. I genuinely don't know what's gonna happen. My muffler was hard enough to install because of rusty bolts. Hopefully this goes better. I have two friends coming on the way, Cameron and Timon. Surely between the three of us, we can get it out. Hopefully it's like, you know, more hands, the merrier, and not like a too many cooks in the kitchen type of situation, but yeah, be fine. One thing I forgot to mention is the sound potential. Not only does the OEM header restrict the flow a bit and thus therefore power, it also restricts the noise. I am also removing a catalytic converter, allegedly. And this should make it a bit louder, a bit throatier. I still have the stock mid-pipe. I'm still retaining a cat. I'm not going catless. I never want to go catless. Maybe that's a hot take. I don't know. Let me know in the comments how you feel about cats and carb and all that stuff. But I am going to retain the factory mid-pipe, and I have the Super Q muffler, which is probably the quietest aftermarket muffler you can have. So, really curious to see how the Racing Beat kind of power header mates with the Super Q muffler. I do have the removable baffles if it is somehow too loud. But yeah, this will be really interesting. Let's get this thing in the air. Got the car up in the air, but now I'm debating just having the front jacked up and lower the back so that it might even be more angled. We're gonna try it. All right, that feels better. So first thing I'm gonna do is hit everything with penetrating oil to try to make it a little bit easier. Got all the bottom bolts of the subframe bracing things hit with WD-40. PP Blaster is probably better, but I don't actually have that right now, so WD-40 it is. And then up here, going to start by taking this off, this whole brace up here. Tidbit of recommendations from someone that the alternator could maybe be leaned forward to help get the OEM header out. And I've also heard the OEM header is easier to get out from the top. So that's kind of the goal. What I have done so far is remove the battery box. That is basically this on the bottom, just sits down there, has 4 10mm bolts, and it separates from the top battery box, which this just comes off basically. And there's just some clips on the underside that the battery cables were being held by, these clips here. So with the battery box out of the way, you have a lot more room to work. In fact, I've been able to start loosening one of the heat shield bolts. And supposedly you can do this without actually disconnecting the coolant line. I just have this moved out of the way. I'm gonna try to leave it in place because I know it's an option, but a lot of people are averse to having coolant leaking and stuff. So we're just gonna see if we can do it without moving that. This heat shield is the annoying thing. So it is pretty sharp. I do recommend gloves, not these. These are just protecting me from liquid. And so I'm gonna get some actual better gloves, but there's a couple bolts on this thing. One here, one down here, and one right here. These two underneath are infamously a pain to get to. But with having the battery box out, I was able to put a 10mm back in here, break it loose, and I've just been working it loose with a 10mm wrench, wherever that went. You always lose the 10mm, don't you? And then this one is easy to get to from right here, so that's just the remaining one at the bottom. Supposedly from underneath the car with 1 billion extensions, it's possible. We'll find out. Timon and Cameron are on their way. We'll see how this works. All right, got the heat shield bolt out. One of them, this one right here. Pro tip, ratcheting wrenches. Every time Timon comes over, I get tool jealousy. Look at this GX, you keep building it every time.
Yeah, it's a work in progress, but it's getting there.
Yeah, still rattles and shakes and...
Yep, the whole 9.
That's GX ownership. So yeah, Timon comes over every time we have a really sketchy install, like my brake lines.
It was fine. It's whatever.
So we'll see how this comes out.
YouTube certified, remember? Only YouTube certified.
Yeah, well, that's what we're doing right now. We're filming a YouTube certification course on how to remove a header from an engine bay. This one's easy, so the last one for the heat shield is down there, which will be interesting. Might take off the wheel and take out the fender liner because people say that helps. I don't know. Cameron's got the extensions. How many extensions did you use?
Just one long one.
One long one to get to that bolt. And now that heat shield is fully free. Cameron also brought his fancy thing there. A tool that neither me nor Timon have. Everyone just shows
in life as an experienced mechanic.
Everyone shows up with new tools.
Yeah.
But taking off more of the subframe components down there, or just the other one that I didn't finish taking off. Yeah, we're gonna see what we can get off as far as this heat shield, which is now free. Woo!
Yeah.
Now we'll take that heat shield off.
Double heat shield.
All right, pulled out. That was the lower heat shield, which was above this one. They kind of formed a case around the header. It's just a bunch of 10mm bolts. Now we have access to the header. And we're getting closer.
Oh, God. That's going to be rough.
God. You need an impact wrench to get your impact wrench apart.
Yeah, you want to pull this off? Sure.
So we got one out. Meanwhile, taking the tire off, or wheel off, was helpful. We gotta get those out. God, what useless camera. There we go. Those two O2 connectors. So that's on the list, as well as every bolt we can get to for this heat shielding. We got all 6 bolts off of the header. None of them were too tight per se, but
I'd say it was probably like 25 foot-pounds, but they're just in the most uncomfortable positions. The nice thing is the bottom 2 you can reach under. For the back one you can reach under here, and then for this one right here you can reach under here.
Yeah, so a combination of extensions, a little bit of a wobble stuff if we needed to, and creative placement of tools. I don't know. couple times dropping them down through the subframe.
Let's get this thing out.
Let's get it out. Good news. We were able to pull this out without removing the coolant line or the alternator.
Just the ducting for the alternator, even though we loosened like half the bolts for the alternator.
This plastic ducting goes on the back side of the alternator, and that's all we needed for clearance. And this hose, it's fine. But yeah, all you have to do is undo the coolant line hoses connectors, but not actually the coolant themselves. So didn't have to spill any coolant. The new header should go in much easier.
Let's hope. Don't speak too soon.
Knock on freaking wood. Honestly, though, we should put the alternator back together now before the
Yeah, probably.
Woo. A lot of people have said they've rotated the alternator forward, like leaned it forward, which there's 3 alternator bolts, so you can undo 2 of them and then rotate the last one. They're hard to get to. This seemed a bit easier. It's just 3 8mm bolts in the back and 1 10mm in the front. So that gave us the leverage we needed. Yeah, and we didn't even have to get the heat shielding off the catalytic converter, which I'll show you.
Well, we tried to, but then
We tried. This bolt stripped itself, so you know, it's just a little rusty and crusty. I'm just glad we got these off because Cameron, you were there.
yeah,
2.5 years ago when we did the muffler.
those were not
To
fun.
cut them. All right, so retain the stock gasket for the header itself goes on the engine. We also took this out. It was attached to the engine.
Support piece for the
Support piece for the old header with its cats and stuff.
cooler guard.
It was really just the stupid plastic guard in front of the alternator.
I'm surprised it has that much bulk, but you know,
It's on.
it is. Done. Let's go for a drive.
Yep. Reading instructions is good. So right up here, basically where the engine and transmission attach was a bracket, this thing, and it was like through there. And this bracket basically gets in the way of the new header. Fortunately, Racing Beat provides a bolt, which I originally thought was going to be for the exhaust bolts. But no, you're supposed to retain your original ones. Not sure if I can, honestly, but we'll address that in a minute. So these just slide up through there, right in there. And the nuts that came off the original bracket just to go right on there. So, and the header is still up there. We just had to remove it a little bit just to leave enough room to work down here. But yeah, we're just about ready to slide it back in. I'm now on day 2. And yeah, the header is in there. I got all the bolts tightened down. They are kind of hard to get to depending on their exact location. And it does come with the torque guide. So this is the order you torque them in. Kind of like some, you know, other pieces of technology like computers and stuff. Same type of thing. But yeah, torque down. Got the back cover put back on the alternator. I'm hoping it doesn't melt. Honestly, I'll check it after I drive this a bit. And then, yeah, put the heat shield back on, which honestly, those bolts were not that hard to get to. The issue on the underside, if I can direct your attention, the header is down installed. Yep, right there. And it is connected to the mid pipe just loosely right now because got the O2 sensors out of this. And in doing so, I sort of shredded the end of one. This plastic bit that comes around it, so still fits in and has the weather sealant thing. So honestly, I might just tape around it. But I was testing the fit on this extension that Racing Beat provided. So what will happen, as far as I know, is I will have a check engine light because what O2 sensors do basically, this is the lower one. This is the upper one. Yeah. And the other one is the lower one. The upstream and downstream. One sits before the cat to test the what's coming out of the engine, test the emissions, I guess, the exhaust gases. And that will help tell the computer how to adjust the engine. And then the other one sits after the cat to let you know, hey, the cat is working. So, with no cat, like this header has, that basically means the second sensor is going to be like, hey, your cat's not working. And I'll be like, LOL, there's no cat. A way around this is to actually have an O2 bung. That's what these are called, thing to attach the O2 sensor in. I'll have to have one welded behind the cat right here of my mid pipe. So that's a process. It's not crazy hard, but shops will do that. They want the mid pipe off to make it easier. So at some point I'm going to do that. I might just run this with a check engine light for a bit, but in order to pass emissions, I have to have no check engine light, and it should still pass the sniffer test just fine because I still have a cat. I'm not deleting the cats. So we are getting there. Just takes a lot of time. A lot of tools. Honestly, if I had to do this again, I could probably do it much faster. We are packing things up, tightening things down. Bolts are all accounted for. We kept having scares because we forgot bolts came off of this thing and don't go back on the car. So remember that. We're sort of separating our tools back. I don't know.
Yeah.
You'll end up with Timon's, I'll end up with yours. Who knows? I went ahead and zip tied the O2 sensor, the extender one, because now that both bungs are on the bottom of the header, the normal one wouldn't reach that far. So they included the extender with the kit. It is a shorter extender, so you're not going to be able to extend it like back behind your mid pipe. So eventually I will need a longer extender and a bung welded to the mid pipe behind the cat. For now, both O2 sensors are on the header, which is kind of funny because it's like half useless, but one's up there, one's over there. The wires are away from the header, which means they shouldn't catch fire. And these are tightened down. Went ahead and got different bolts from the hardware store because the ones that came on the stock header are just really on there. I don't even know how you get these off, honestly. So that's staying there for now, which is fine because I may reuse this thing eventually. So that's why I'm keeping everything kind of together. But I think we're about ready. Put the wheel on, put it on the ground, and get a cold start. Now everything's battened down. So this is what it actually looks like. Now we got this thing in here, and Dave Fab everywhere. Everyone's making fun of it, but I'm OCD and I like everything to match. So matte black everything, even if it was already matte black. Now it's metal. All right, Cameron, we are going to do the cold start. See how it sounds. Fire it up. You can hear that exhaust leak from the gasket between the muffler and the mid pipe. Nice. Everything works. If I need to, I can put the removable baffles into the Super Q. If I get tired of it, I'll probably bring those on the road trip because I'm basically going straight on the road after this to Miata's The Gap. It's louder.
It is. Yeah.
I'm not gonna say it went flawlessly, but if we had to quote unquote do it again, I bet we could do it way faster now that we understand how everything works.
Absolutely.
Oh boy, this always happens. A side quest apart from the actual point of the video. So this used to be the exhaust gasket. As you can tell, it is no longer an exhaust gasket. And there it is. These bolts were a pain to get out. They are kind of rusted and corroded. So my side quest is going to be to get a new gasket. I actually did order one, or actually two from Amazon. They're 2.5 inch, which is the correct diameter of the pipe, but the holes across are like 4.5 inches hole to hole, or 4.3 maybe, versus most of the gaskets apparently are like 4 inches, so it didn't fit. I'm gonna go find maybe some of that sealant stuff and also new hardware from Ace Hardware, and I guess we'll get this fixed. Then I can show you how the exhaust sounds. We're gonna do a little experiment. Upon further review, I've decided to modify the Amazon gasket, cutting the edges because the holes don't actually work. So the NC Miata, the 2.5 inch inner circle is what you need, and the holes are about 4.3 inches center to center, according to Flywheel Miata. This one was like 4 inches center to center or even less. But now they're infinity center to center. So I'm going to install this, but I still have the exhaust lubricant Permatex sealant silicone thing if I need to use that. But gonna try this and see if it works. All right, fresh light, fresh brain, fresh coffee. Let's see what it looks like. Looks good as new, brother. So I threw the new gasket in last night, and I do still have this if there is still an exhaust leak. But while the car's in the air, let's do the cold start, see if it actually works, listen to the cold start, then we'll finally take it for a drive. Well, I think it's better, but we're gonna go take it for a drive. I can always throw that Permatex stuff on to seal it up further if I need to, but yeah, we can still see what it sounds like, see how it performs. That's not gonna actually bother the review of the header. That's just my annoying frustration with the little mid-pipe, old muffler, old mid-pipe, new muffler thing. So let's go for a drive. So it sounds awesome. Not too raspy, not too loud. Again, I have the Super Q muffler and the factory catted mid-pipe, which adds the fact that, you know, it's not straight pipe, droney, crazy loud, which is fine. I don't want that. I don't want my neighbors to be angry at me. I just want them to question me, which they already do. Anyways, cold start is more fun. But all that aside, beyond the sound, the actual performance gains are noticeable. I know you're all ferociously typing in the comments, get a tune! And that's when I reply, subscribe! Because I know I need a tune, and that is on the way. In fact, the video is in the works. So, that's next. But I wanted to talk about this pre-tune. I wanted to talk about it as a standalone option for people who may want to try one or the other and see what the improvements are by itself. Even without a tune, but dyno tells me it's a big performance improvement. I mean, you can for sure tell the header restricts the airflow. You can just see that in the header itself. I mean, the pipes, again, are pinched. It has a cat. Obviously, we removed the cat. My voice just cracked. But, oh yeah. And I think that did fix my exhaust leak, if I'm being honest. This just breathes better. The car feels more alive. There's like more torque down low. And yeah, it's all minor, but a car with this little power, even the minor things really do add up. So I'm super thrilled with this header. Honestly, if I knew this is how it would feel, I probably would have done it a lot sooner. Final thoughts. Well, I am thrilled. With how it performs, with how it sounds. I actually set out to do the header in hopes that it would waken my car up to roughly the point of how it felt at sea level. And honestly, I think it did. Again, if I had known this is what it would have done before, I would have done the header much sooner, but I'm just happy I did it now. Have you done your header? Which header did you pick and why? There's a lot of people out there comparing and contrasting. This is my Racing Beats header and I am thrilled. But let me know in the comments what you did. Leave a like if you like more power, baby. And subscribe so you don't miss my upcoming piece on tuning this bad boy. Until next time, peace.